on the Mount. And last week we talked about Matt. We did actually went through the Beatitudes 3 through 11, and we talked briefly about what it literally means to function or operate or have the character or the attitude of one who um, op, um, fulfill the Beatitudes in an effort to have what we have called this joy. And many people have said happiness, which the meaning there, blessed or blessed, literally means happiness or joy. It's an inner joy that allows us to rejoice over circumstances and situations despite outward circumstances, despite the things that are literally going on around us. So it kind of ties back into the scripture that says that we walk by faith and not by sight, right? So we talked about one of the things I talked about last week was we used for an example the song Living Life Like It's Golden by Jill Scott, and we talked about how I was telling the meaning of the lyrics and the words that she used in that song. While many of us have different ideas, thank you for sharing of what literally that means, because sometimes for us we can be like, I'm living living life like it's golden, because we think, hey Angie, good to see you, how are you? Literally we could think that means to, so-called ball, and we have all the money in the world, we got everything that we want, we just chill and have no worries, no problems. But that's literally not what Jill Scott said that song meant for her. So we talked about in an interview, she talked about being in a toxic relationship that really caused her a lot of sadness and pain within her life, and she literally had to make the decision on whether she wanted to live life in a happy and a joyous state, or if she literally just wanted to be, bound up in the life that she was in and never having this joy or this fulfillment that life has for us through God. And so she determined that she was going to break off that relationship. And when she did, she started to experience that joy. And she describes that joy as being, she said, it felt like literally walking past this mirror and looking at herself in the mirror, and it was as if her life was literally shining, or her life was literally so bright like gold that she could literally take a cloth, how we polish our silverware. She said she felt like she was beaming and was so full of joy that she could just take a cloth and continue to polish it and make it to shine and shine and shine. And so thus she ends up with this song called Living Life Like It's Golden, right? And then she goes further to say that it was not just about wanting to have this joy and to be happy and have everything that she desired, but in her lyrics she literally talked about she was this joy that she had, that she hoped that her lifestyle was giving God glory. You guys have to go back and pull up the lyrics and really look at those lyrics. And she talks about, she says, I hope that you're proud of me. I hope literally like this life of joy that I have is not just fruit of physical things. Hi, Miss Campbell, Marche. I think I said it right, Miss Shay. How are you? Welcome. Hey, Sean. So she talks about having a life not only that she could feel good in and be joyous in, but also a life that pleased God, right? So that's what we're talking about, this joy that I have. So I went through that last week, and I talked about each one of the Beatitudes. I only talked about the first part, the actual characteristic, and I never really got into Marche. That's it, Marche. I never got into the part that really makes us rejoice. I was going to do that this week. However, we had some very overwhelming, exciting things happen in the news this weekend, and so what I wanted to do is kind of go back to one of the Beatitudes and kind of do a little reiterating on that a little bit and just talk a little bit. May not be very long tonight, but I want to go back to Matthew 5 and look at verse 9. That's what I want to talk about tonight. And we're going to talk about the joy of making peace. Since the series is about this joy that I have, what I want to talk about is the joy in making peace. right? So verse 5 and 9 says, blessed are the peacemakers. Guys, if you could share for me, I would be really appreciate it. Let everybody know that we're on. This is going to be something good that we all want to hear. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called the children of God. Verse 5 and 9. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called the children of God. Many of us know, I'm not going to say everybody knows, but in 2016, in September, Solange, the sister of the Queen Bee herself, Beyonce, Solange came out with an album called A Seat at the Table. And so I heard so many people talking about it and how good it was, and so I went to listen to it, and thus I ended up buying it when it came out. And it actually has become one of my favorite albums, and I usually tend to listen to it a lot when I'm probably working and writing papers and writing blogs and things like that, because it's pretty kind of mellow. And she said it's not really something that you kind of dance to, but it's something you really listen to and kind of take in what she's saying. And so this album, it includes things that are have like rage. It talks about despair. It talks about empowerment. So it'll talk about all those things, but it'll also lift you up in some empowerment. And so in the album, or on the album, she have these different interviews that she did with her parents, her mother and her father, but she also did some with the well-known rapper named Master P from New Orleans. And so he is actually on a track. His interview is an interlude, right? So it's only a couple of seconds, and it's called "The Glory Is in You." And I want to tell you what Master P says on that interlude. And as he's talking, when it comes on, he's already midstream in his conversation with Solange, and so we catch him in the middle of what he's saying. And so this is what we hear when that track comes on. He says, sometimes you ask yourself, where's the peace? Everybody's always talking about peace, but as long as you find peace in what you're doing, then you're successful. And that's what people don't realize. He says, see, you've got to do stuff till where you can sleep at night. That's his language. I'll go back and explain it. To where you can sleep at night, because the glory is in you. So Master P, hey Miss Jen, it's so good to see you. How are you? Master P breaks down what he believes is the understanding of finding peace and how it can be found. And so basically he's saying you need to be able to do stuff where you can settle down and sleep at night, where you can have a mind and a resolve within yourself, with the things that you do in life, with the decisions, the choices that you make, the actions that you live out in this life. And he's saying, if you're okay with that, if you can lay down and go to sleep at night, then you're successful. You've accomplished the peace that you're after. But here's the truth. Not many people are really accomplishing that peace, because what we say that we have peace with, we don't really have peace with it. We lie to people and we lie to ourselves, because we still go back. If your conscience is questioning about what you've done, and you can be out here and doing all this crazy stuff. Let me give you an example. The man who ran his car into the crowd, he was angry and raging. He felt good about that, but I guarantee you his conscience now is eating him up, because now he's in jail and is going to be sentenced, right? So he finds no peace in what he's done. Right? So there's a book I read for my doctoral program, and I was actually writing a paper on yesterday and today that's due tonight. There's a book called The Holy Longings, and it's written by a guy named Ronald Hauser. And he believes that there is within each and every one of us a fundamental dis-ease, is how he breaks it up. Dis-ease. He says there's an unquenchable fire that renders all of us incapable in this life to ever reach full peace. The peace that one longs for, he suggests, is not just some simple undertaking. It's not something that we can just easily accomplish. He says peace is something that everybody wants, but few of us are finding that peace. Yet, Jesus states here in our text today in Matthew 5:9, he says, blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called the children of God. So it's important to remember that that peace in the Bible is always based on justice and righteousness, right? So it's not necessarily this peace that we think about of serenity. So a lot of times I tell myself, I need some peace. I just need some peace and quiet. It's not about just being quiet. It's not. For me, I think that my peace comes if I'm away on somebody's beach and the sun is shining. I'm up on the umbrella, just relaxing with my shades on, maybe reading a book. But that is not the peace that Jesus is suggesting in our text or even throughout the Bible. He says, and we learn as we read the Bible, where justice prevails and righteousness rules, there will always be peace. Right? But without those two virtues, without justice, without righteousness, without those two, peace is not possible. Neither is it lasting. Right? Because we can mimic what we think is peace, but it will not last if righteousness and justice does not prevail. So peace, what is it? It is a lack of conflict and freedom from violence between diverse social groups, right? I forgot to bring my book. I was going to tell you about that. So in teaching the Beatitudes, Jesus isn't just teaching a collection of good human ideas, but rather it is his divinely authoritative interpretation of the law. It is not just good characteristics. It is just not good ways that humans act. It is not the inside idea of how my morals or my ethics, but it is divine interpretive teaching of the law of God. It is what God has already stated and God has requested of us, of our lives. Every one of us in this earth, every diverse group in this earth, God has required us to operate and function in this divine law. Peace. So what did Jesus mean when he said peacemaker? So the word in the word make, let's look at that. The word make in the term peacemakers comes from the Greek verb that means to do, right? It is a word bursting with energy, momentum. It literally mandates action and initiative. Someone has to be able to drag each side of the party, each participant to the table and give them a reason why they should put down their arms, why they should no longer be at odds. And here's my issue. So I mentioned last week when we talked about this joy that I have, that I was watching in NBC Today show, and Kathy Lee and Holder was having a conversation, and ultimately I'm paraphrasing, but the conversation literally was, she was saying that we can't have these type of racial conversations because it makes people upset. However, I would prove her or tell her that she's wrong. Why? Because if the truth is, people do get mad. Let me just say that people do get mad. We do get mad, right? This issue with diverse cultures, it's not just black and white. Let me say that. Though sometimes it is the white and the black that represent each side. So when you talk about white and black, it's the black representing all ethnic groups, all cultures. However, it is a fight between all of us. And when we come to the table, we have allowed life circumstances, life issues to rev us up so much that we're so angry that we can't begin to talk to each other with common sense to allow us to resolve what's going on. What we end up doing, hey brother-in-law, what we end up doing is making each other madder and madder. So let me make it more relevant. Let me help you out. Those of you who watch oh Lord, I wish Sean was in here. What's that little show? Hip Hop Atlanta, I think it is. And you got Tommy and you got this other girl, I forget her name. They got an argument and they're fighting with each other. I don't know if y'all saw this episode. They sitting at this conference table. Their friends want them to get it together, to stop being angry with each other. Stop trying to, Dime, that's her name, Dime. Stop fighting with each other. They both angry. They both got the same issues. They both struggling. They both strong women, but they can't hear each other because they so